situations between parties here for the program, but nevertheless we're on the way. So thank you so much for tuning in. Those of you across the various platforms, Facebook, YouTube, the website, Classic FM, GBN TV, as well as Party Grenada and Go To Fed Facebook pages. Thank you so much for tuning in to the program. We're going to get right into the discussion this morning. Joining me virtually is a medical doctor with the Ministry of Health, Dr. Myanna Charles. Good morning, Dr. Charles. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Let me make sure.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Myanna or Myanna? I've been hearing both.
My.
All right. Just making sure. So thank you so much for joining us. Doc, this morning, let's talk vaccination. And I know the ministry has been on a massive drive over the past few months to get people to, or encouraging people to get vaccinated. What's some of the latest that you can provide for us this morning? Just center yourself. Put yourself in the center. Yes, in the center.
No problem. Yes. So we continue to encourage persons to get vaccinated. And over the last 2 weeks, we have seen an increase in uptake. And I want to, thank the general public and thank the people for Grenada for coming out and get vaccinated, for realizing the benefits of vaccination and making that informed decision to protect themselves. As of yesterday at 4 p.m., 17,077 persons have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and around 8,000 their second dose. So as it stands to date, just about 8,000 persons in the population are fully vaccinated, right? And this is a significant improvement from what we have seen previously, right? So persons continue to come out to get vaccinated.
Over the past few weeks, one of the concerns has been the expiration of the current batch of vaccines and people's ability to get their second jabs. What can you tell us in relation to that? And if people still have, let's say I got vaccinated yesterday, can I still get my second dose from this current batch?
So I would start off by stating that now in terms of the manufacturer recommendation, right, the second dose can be administered as early as 4 weeks, right? So persons who receive their first dose today, they do have enough time to get their second dose, right? Because you need at least 4 weeks to pass before you can get a second dose, right? So I just want to clear that up. Now, in terms of that, I still encourage persons, even though you may not be able to get your second dose, I still encourage you to come out and get your first dose. And that was a strategy used by the UK to vaccinate as much persons as possible during the peak of the coronavirus with their first dose, because some protection is better than no protection. Even with the first dose, you still get protection from hospitalization, severe disease, and death. If you become exposed or infected with the COVID-19 virus. So I want to encourage persons to come out and get vaccinated.
There has been vaccine hesitancy, and not just in Grenada, but worldwide. And a lot of people have been having questions, concerns. And so what fears can you alleviate for us this morning in relation to people who are still thinking twice, maybe 3 times about getting vaccinated?
Now, the vaccine hesitancy, yes, it remains, and persons' concerns are valid. And we just have to take it a few months back. Remember, even in the beginning, of the pandemic, there has been a lot of controversy among the virus and about the coronavirus disease. And once we had entered a phase of vaccination, those concerns remained. We see a very high and vibrant anti-vax movement. For the persons who are hesitant, I want to tell you to believe in the science. Trust the science. We have trusted the science for years, right? Persons with diabetes, they take their diabetic medication. Persons with high blood pressure, they take their high blood pressure medication. Parents vaccinate their kids against measles, mumps, and rubella because most of them believe in the science and they trust the science. And this is no different with the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, most persons I know in the beginning, even I myself, I disclosed that here, I was a bit hesitant, right? But as I continue to see the growing evidence and the benefits of vaccination, I decided to make a decision to protect myself, because what I do know and what we do know and what the science has proven with all the vaccines available in the market is that they significantly protect individuals from hospitalization, severe disease, and death. Additionally, there is an amount of evidence that proves that vaccination reduces transmission. Right? So for all the doubts and the hesitancy, I want persons to weigh the benefits and the risk. Right? The benefits of vaccination far outweigh any possible risk. Right? So I ask persons to weigh that, and I want to encourage persons to make the right decision to get vaccinated, because this is the only way we can get back to a normal life, right? COVID-19 has claimed so much things for us, from us, right? Some persons have lost their job, our mental health, just the stress, and some persons are fatigued at this point, going through what I call COVID fatigue, or what we refer to as COVID fatigue, right? They're just tired, right? You want to get back to a sense of normalcy again, right? And vaccination is the answer.
One of the concerns as well has to do with when we'll be able to get the next batch of vaccines, whether it's the AstraZeneca or any of the other. Do you have any information as to how soon we can get those other doses, those other batches?
Right. So the ministry continues to make every effort to source additional vaccines. And again, as stated in multiple forums by the minister, by the chief medical officer, Grenada will not use a vaccine that is not granted approval by the World Health Organization, right? So they continue with efforts to source it. And there will be an announcement at around 11 at the postcard briefing. So I want to encourage persons to log on to that, to sign on to that, be a part of that, so you can hear that announcement.
Efforts have also been made for further education of members of the public. I know just, if not this weekend before, there were forums online. Have you seen the benefits of those forums in terms of addressing some questions of members of the public and more people turning out to get vaccinated since those forums have been held for?
Yes, the forums and the education campaigns have been significantly helpful, and they continue to address the concerns of persons. And with the forums, I think repetition is the key. Sometimes you hear it from one person, you need to hear it from somebody else, or you need to hear it time and time again. So the continuous education campaigns and forums have indeed increased the uptake. We have indeed seen an increase in uptake among the Grenadian people.
What's the greatest concern? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yes, and I just wanted to say we have seen that increase in uptake among all eligible adult age groups. So it is quite encouraging, and across different workplaces as well. People are more and more starting to realize the benefits and the need for vaccination. And I think the campaigns and the forums continue to help with that.
What has been the major concern that you've heard from members of the public during these forums over the past few weeks?
No, in the beginning, right, there have been significant concern. But I must say, where we at right now, I don't hear any person saying, oh, I'm not going to take the vaccine because of this. Persons are more saying, oh, I'd like to wait. Right? So we no longer hear the song, I'm not going to take it because I'm scared of this. I think a lot of persons, the concerns have been addressed. And one of the major things that, persons were concerned about is the rare blood clotting events. Right? That was one of the major concerns, and even long-term side effects. But now persons are singing a different song. Most persons I speak to and most persons I hear on the forum, they're saying, I will take the vaccine, but I want to wait. but I will take it. So that is a positive shift.
A comment on Facebook. It's not time for questions yet, but the comment kind of spoke of where I was going with the next question. It says, it shows that so far the vaccine have reduced death and infection rate, but the main concern is what happened, let's say, 2 years down the road, because those vaccines are established vaccines, as for the measles, rubella, while the COVID-19 vaccines are relatively new and are only authorized for emergency use so far. So that's what I was going to ask. People are concerned that while so far it has been or mostly proving to do what it says it can do, how certain are we that 2, 5, 10 years down the line, we won't be seeing negatives coming out of taking the vaccine?
Right. No, this is an important concern. Once persons are vaccinated, remember this vaccine has passed clinical trials, meaning that it has been proven to be safe and effective. Before any vaccine or any medication can be administered to a population, it must go through what we call clinical trials, right? And it goes through a number of rigorous steps and processes. And like with all other vaccines and medication, the COVID-19 vaccines that are currently approved are no different. They went through all those rigorous processes. So what we do know is that the vaccine is safe and it is effective. So the vaccine will do what they say it will do, right? That is what I mean by the effectiveness. Now, as we know, when you give any other medication, right, we do something called post-marketing surveillance. You monitor persons for a number of years who would have taken the medication or the vaccines in question, right? So these are still ongoing, right? Studies are still ongoing as to the long-term side effects. The first person who have taken the first shot of the vaccine, I don't think a year has passed as yet. So we cannot say what will happen beyond a year, right? But I just want to reassure persons again that this vaccine has been through all the rigorous processes, right? Additionally, the technology used in the vaccine is not new. It's been around for decades. As it relates to the AstraZeneca vaccine, this is a traditional technology. It has been used to control other infectious diseases in the past. So it has been around, right? But as it relates to long-term side effects, we still have to wait.
A lot of people have been, what should I say, hooking on to the phrase that it's still in emergency, or it was approved for emergency use. Which means it's not fully approved for use among humans. How would you respond to that in terms of what it means that it's used for emergency use and people's concern about that part?
Right. So emergency use does not mean that it is not approved for use among humans. I would like to dispel that right away. No, the vaccine, right? It's underwent clinical trials, and it was proven to be safe and effective for use in humans. So it has passed those stages, right? So it is approved for use in humans, right? Emergency use authorization simply, it was granted that because remember, COVID-19 is a pandemic. It is a public health emergency. COVID-19 is a public health emergency, right? So the agencies, right, they approve those vaccines to strengthen the nation's public health protection against the virus that causes COVID-19, right? And to facilitate the availability and the use of these vaccines during a public health emergency, right? So that is all emergency use means. It has nothing to do with not being approved for use in humans, right? The vaccine has underwent clinical trials and it is approved for use in humans. Right? So emergency use listing just means to facilitate and to strengthen a country's public health response during a public health emergency, right? But it must undergo all the rigorous processes and trials as any other vaccine or medication on the market.
All right, Dr. Charles, let's take a quick break and then we're going to come back and continue the discussion. We are speaking with Dr. Myanna Charles, a medical doctor attached to the Ministry of Health, as we continue to educate people and encourage everyone to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This is To The Point. We'll be right back.
Do you hear what I hear? Listen to the ocean, and you will hear a cry for help. The ocean is hurting, and we are the source of the hurt. But we can stop and start to heal our ocean by preventing pollution from getting into our waterways. It can start with you. Join an active organization, or better yet, make a personal commitment. Commit not for just one day in the year, but for the rest of your life. Let's dispose of our plastic and other waste responsibly, and let's start building resilience. Let the healing begin.
This message is brought to you by the OECS Commission with funding from the Government of Norway. REMLIT, tackling ocean pollution from tooth to surf.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Feel good.
Welcome back to The Point. We are speaking with Dr. Myanna Charles. Dr. Myanna Charles, medical doctor attached to the Ministry of Health. This is the point of the program. We're going to open the phone lines to members of the public and the social media platforms. The landline number 435-2041. The WhatsApp number is also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp, and you can continue to post your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. Just as a disclaimer, keep in mind that Dr. Charles is a medical doctor mostly attached to the COVID-19 and the vaccination program. So some of the questions that you may have, she may or may not be able to answer them, but so let's try to keep them, alleviate some of your fears, your concerns, your questions, mostly related to vaccine. She will try her best. We will try our best, but just keep that in mind going forward. So let's go to our first caller of the program. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you going?
I'm good.
Okay, then. Nice program, but I've heard Dr. Charles said something to me that frightens me. Dr. Charles is a doctor of good qualities. But I heard a lot of medical doctors, especially from the USA and other countries, is claiming that the emergency use simply means that it was not fully tested, but in the manner in which it is tested, it is given only for an
sorry, caller, we lost that part. It was only given as
an emergency use because of the pandemic, so that nobody could make a claim against the persons who gave the vaccine. No other vaccine was ever given that emergency use. As that, for instance, we have AIDS. The AIDS virus is over 10 years now, and we ain't get a vaccine for it. So I'm not saying that the vaccine should not be taken, but the emergency use is not something that we should take lightly. It was not fully yet developed. That is how I see it for the time being. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Dr. Charles?
Okay. So I will just, reiterate what I was said, and thank you for your question and concern. Now, as I said, right now, vaccines, right, before they can be granted emergency use listing and before they can be used on the general public, they must undergo clinical trials, all the rigorous steps, right? And the COVID-19 vaccines that are approved for use, right, have underwent all of those steps. Remember, we have to remember COVID-19 and the virus that causes COVID-19 is a public health emergency. It is a global emergency. Right now, emergency use listing basically allows, right, strengthening of a nation's public health protection against a specific virus and infectious disease, right? And in this case, COVID-19, right? To basically facilitate the use of medication or vaccines that will aid in providing benefits, right, to a country. Right, so this is what emergency use listing mean. It does not mean that a vaccine did not underwent all the rigorous processes and steps, right? It does not mean that. It just means that it makes a safe and effective measure available to help curb, right, or to help basically stop the pandemic in this case, because again, this is a public health emergency. So we need measures in place that will protect the public and protect the population. And we need it as quick as possible. So this is what emergency use listing mean. It has nothing to do with the clinical trials, right? It just means making a measure available. And in this case, what we're currently fighting, the vaccine for COVID-19 available to aid in the public health response and to strengthen the public health response against a particular virus.
WhatsApp question. Somebody would like to find out what are the dates carded for the stadium in the vaccination process.
So currently, let me just pull up the dates here. Just give me 1 minute, I'll tell you. It has not been done every day this week. If my memory serves me right, it is available on Tuesday, today, and Friday. Today and Friday. It was done yesterday, and I think today and Friday from 9 to 2 p.m. You can also get vaccinated at all the health centers throughout the country. I encourage persons to call to make an appointment before you go to the health center, because remember, the vials contain doses of 10, right? So make an appointment so that arrangements can be made. Additionally, you can get vaccinated at SAMS on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 3.
There is somebody on the WhatsApps calling and sending voice note. Please, only written messages on the WhatsApp, please. So the person who just sent the minute 21 second voice note, write out the message or the question that you have, and I will relay them to Dr. Charles on your behalf. In the meantime, let me go back to the phone line. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Nice hearing your voice, Ms. Blossom.
Thank you very much.
All right. I want to ask the doctor 2 questions, and I would like her to answer it for me, please. The first instance they had when they made the first announcement with the trial, as the chief said, they say it's a trial vaccine and it's an experiment with a trial. That was the first thing they said. Sorry for my mistakes. Was a trial with, right, an experiment with a trial. That was the first thing they said over and over to the public, right? And we listened to that. Then, why it is that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health coming to tell us about the next batch of vaccine that to come? Why she can tell us what is the next batch of vaccine to come and when it will be coming? Because if she is the medical doctor in the health place, in the ministry, why the minister, the 2 ministers, Minister of Health and the Prime Minister, had to come to make that decision? She's the one that gave the she's supposed to know everything. She's supposed to have the right up. He's supposed to from where he come from, what he prepared from and everything. And then she come and tell the public, not like how they come the first time, bullying people and demanding people, because that is a bully gang coming again today. And we do I can understand that this is what the whole are doing. They're scared, right? Because them coming to tell you what them want to tell you. And you can ask them a question because they don't want to speak to nobody. So I got to answer that question for me, please. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Dr. Charles?
All right. So, yes. Now, clinical trials, right? This is what is used to basically assess or evaluate the safety and the effectiveness of a medication, any sort of drug, a vaccine, right, before it can be used among the general public, right? There are different phases of the clinical trial. And this vaccine, again, I would want to reassure persons, it had went through all the rigorous phases of clinical trials. And the outcome of those clinical trials is that the vaccine is safe and effective for use in the general public, right? And this is the primary goal of clinical trials, right? Before a vaccine or anything can be approved on the market, it has to undergo these trials. And the COVID-19 vaccines approved for use underwent those clinical trials. Now, as it relates to the vaccines and the availability and so forth. Now, the vaccine we are currently using in Grenada is the COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine, and we have received to date about 47,000 doses of that vaccine for use. And so far, as I mentioned, about 17,000 persons have received their first dose and just about 8,000 persons their second dose, right? So if you do the math, we basically would have utilized almost half of that supply, right? And we still have persons, probably over about 9,000 persons are to receive their second dose from that batch, right? So the uptake is good, and we continue to do well as it relates to that. Now, as it regards to new vaccines, right, and when other vaccines will become available. Now, as was stated on multiple different forums, Grenada will not be using a vaccine that has not been granted emergency use listing by the World Health Organization. Now, announcements as it relates to when we're receiving further doses or other vaccines, that announcement will be made today on the post-cabinet briefing. So I want to encourage a caller to sign on to that so that he can get that announcement.
Let me go to YouTube. Somebody on YouTube asked, how do concepts like molecular mimicry and autoimmune diseases tie in with the vaccine?
Now, autoimmune disease, right now, as it relates to autoimmune disease and the vaccine, by virtue of having an autoimmune disease, right, the body is in a state as what we call it is immunosuppressed, meaning somebody with autoimmune disease, that's a disease where the body attacks itself, right? So the immune system of somebody with autoimmune disease is not as strong, is not as robust as somebody who does not have that disease, right? Now, persons with autoimmune disease, now they can receive the vaccine. However, if they do get a vaccine, we do not know the degree of the immune response that will be produced against the vaccine. Because by virtue of the disease, the immune system is not as robust and effective in mounting an immune response or protection to a particular disease, right? That is it relates, but persons with autoimmune disease are still encouraged to get vaccinated. And this is where the concept of herd immunity comes in, right? Because these persons, right, because we do not know the degree of the protection they will produce against the virus when they receive the vaccine, right? This is why we encourage persons who are eligible for the vaccine. And we do have evidence that the strength of the immune response that will be produced, we encourage them to take the vaccine so they can protect those persons. One, who are not eligible for the vaccine, the persons 18 and on, under the age of 18, and also the persons who we do not know the degree of protection they develop after receiving the vaccine by virtue of their diseases, right? And for instance, autoimmune disease.
The caller that asked a question about why you're not able to tell us about when we're getting the second batch, did you answer that one? Okay, care to respond?
In terms of the second batches, now, as I said, this will be addressed on the post-cab briefing.
The caller inquired. The caller inquired why you can tell us before post-cab.
No, my job. Remember, I am a medical doctor, meaning I am a technical person. Right. So as it relates to vaccines, your concerns about vaccines, I can talk about the evidence. Right. But as it relates to other things like procurement of vaccines and all of those things, right, we leave that for the other persons to discuss. Right. And the fittest people would be persons like the minister, so to discuss in terms of procurement of vaccines.
I believe Dr. George Mitchell has joined us via Zoom. Let me admit him into the program. But in the meantime, let me take another question from our viewers and listeners. So let me go to the landline while Dr. Mitchell joins us. Good morning, caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Quick question. Just want to ask the doctor, what is gain of function research? How does it tie in with the virus? And what does the mounting evidence of the lab leak theory mean for this vaccine rollout? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you just repeat the question? I did not get the first part.
Let me see if the caller is there. Caller is still here? Okay, the caller is not there. He asked something about J. I didn't quite get it. It was muffled. J something concept. Under the lab leak. Hold on, there was a similar question on the YouTube. So, okay, the question on YouTube, I guess, is related somewhat to what the caller asked. There is more and more evidence pointing toward a lab leak. How prepared? A lab leak in relation to the COVID-19 virus. Any information in terms of the lab leak?
Currently, I do not have information on that.
Hello?
Yes, good morning, Dr. Charles. Dr. Mitchell, sorry, Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah, Dr. Mitchell, how are you doing?
I'm good, not too bad. I'm hearing you, but I'm not seeing you. Can you turn on the camera, please?
Well, I just did.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the program, viewers and listeners. Dr. George Mitchell, no stranger, especially as we are on this COVID-19 wave, the pandemic. You were going to answer the question, I believe?
Well, first of all, I just have to say good morning. I was kind of brought up in that territory, you know what I mean?
Amen.
Amen. So let me say good morning to all your listeners. It's a pleasure to be back on this program. And my apologies for joining late. I of course, was in another activity that didn't allow me to join at the time. I kind of got in at the back of your question. Can you rephrase for me, please, if you don't mind?
Lord, let me see if I could recall. The caller was inquiring about a lab leak in relation to the COVID-19 virus. And I can't recall the first two. Something about what does the J something, how does it affect the vaccine or in relation to the vaccine?
Okay. So I think I'm aware of what that particular caller is asking. About the lab leak. I think there's a recent report based on some investigators from the US regarding the Wuhan sort of like outbreak. And it is as though they're pointing to more evidence, but not very precise evidence about the source of the outbreak. These things don't sort of like go away in the morning. As for public health and research and intelligence and all of that, there is always this quest to know exactly what happened. And so there's a continuation of that quest to know exactly where that came from. But, I was listening to the program where one of the advisors to the current president was saying about the report that, yes, this is additional information, but it is not fact as yet. So they are digging more and more into the possible outbreak, where it stemmed from, how it got out there. But the information thus far is still very cloudy. So that is what I can say about that particular report about a lab leak on the coronavirus.
Okay. A question on Facebook. If someone suffers a severe side effect from taking the vaccine, who will bear that responsibility?
Right. Myanna, you're going to go on that because I heard Dr. Charles answer that question sometime in the past.
Yes, I will go on that. Now, as it relates, again, I just want to start off by saying that the side effects with the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine are significant. The majority of side effects are mild, they're minor, they are short-lived. Now, however, there is a mechanism through the COVAX facility. If persons would have suffered a severe side effects that can be proven to be related to the vaccine and is permanent, where they can get some sort of funds, right? But the fact that the side effect has to be proven to be related to the vaccine, and it has to be permanent, right? And they can get support through a mechanism that exists within the COVAX facility.
So that is quite heartening news, if you ask me, because I recall that many people had that question earlier on. People are concerned about the side effects, about their health. We are in unknown territory. So those are pertinent questions to ask, and I'm really, really happy when I heard Dr. Charles, the CMO, referred to that possibility back then. But, I just want to reiterate what Dr. Charles just said. And for not confusing the two Dr. Charleses, may I call you Myanna? Right? It's happening, yeah. It is a situation where there is an outside possibility of a severe and worthy outcome, but it is extremely, extremely, extremely rare, and we want to reiterate that. And just to put it squarely, if you look at the possibilities of severe outcomes to anything else, to smoking, to taking pills for a lot of conditions, it is much more, as per the data, than an unlikely outcome of taking the vaccine. So whereas we should be worried about that, we should also be worried about taking all the other pills that we are currently taking. So I just wanted to put that out there for all it's worth.
Somebody on Facebook noted that the first part of the question that we didn't get right, the question, what is gain of function research?
What is what?
Gain of function research.
Oh, well, we'll have to go and do the research from that myself, because I have no clue what that caller is talking about. That seems to be an intellectual exercise right there.
All right, let me see if I go back to the landline. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
All right, I'm just calling to find out something. I'm not sure because it's a little disturbing. As far as we understand, the body is made up with antibodies to fight natural diseases and everything. They say the COVID, the AstraZeneca vaccine and other vaccines are there. When you take it, it creates antibodies. I'm just trying to figure out if there will be a battle in the body for supremacy with these antibodies, because the vaccine creates antibodies and the body has its own natural antibodies. I just want a little explanation on that so I could fully understand what will be taking place in the human body. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Docs?
No, I just want to say right now, just to go back a bit, right now, gain of function research is one of ethical concern. Now, it simply means, I'm not sure where the caller is going with this, but it's basically experimentation research. So you're trying to experiment something in a lab, that is the sort of research. And the aim of that kind of research is to basically increase what we call the transmissibility, or basically how effective viruses or other pathogens can infect persons. So you're strengthening that virus ability to cause disease. So that is basically what that is, right? Now, and the main purpose of those research is to basically it aims to improve one's understanding about how viruses cause disease the effect on the body, and those sort of things. So this is the main purpose of that kind of research. Now, to address this caller's question about immunity, natural immunity, and the antibodies your body produces. Now, I just want to state, right? Now, there are two types of immunity, or two types of protection, right, against an infectious disease. Now, we have on one end of the spectrum, we have something called natural immunity, right? And by that, I mean, you become exposed to a virus that causes a particular disease. So in this instance, you become exposed to the virus that causes, for instance, let's say COVID-19 disease, right? Your body sees that as foreign, your immune systems get primed up, your immune system try to protect you from that disease by producing antibodies to fight that virus, right? So this is basically natural immunity. Your body develops protection to a virus after becoming exposed to the actual germ that causes the disease, right? So this is in a nutshell. On the other hand, we have what we call vaccine-mediated immunity, where you get injected, let's say, with a vaccine. Your body will basically react to the vaccine the same way it really reacts to a real virus or the real germ, right? Now, what your body does, it again primes your immune system, produces what is known as antibodies, right, to basically give you protection against that infectious disease. So that if you become exposed, your body remembers this disease. It has what we call memory cell. It remembers how to fight it. So you do not become sick, right? So that is the difference between the concepts of immunity. Now, again, vaccine-mediated immunity does a much better job at protecting persons from a particular disease or infectious disease, right? Because the body is primed up. The body remembers how to fight a disease, so you don't get sick. Now, if you expose yourself, or if you become exposed and your body does not know this disease, it is seeing this disease for the first time, right, which is natural immunity, you have to try to figure out how to fight it, right? And that disease or the virus gets chance to basically multiply in your body, right? So now it's a battle against the virus trying to survive and the immune system now trying to protect you or develop protection against that virus, right? So vaccine-mediated immunity is a much better form of immunity when it comes to dealing with infectious diseases, right? But your body reacts to the real germ the same way it will react to the vaccine.
Let me just prong off what you're saying, Dr. Charles. So there is no fight between the antibodies that is created through natural immunity and those that are created through vaccine-mediated processes. There's absolutely no fight. If anything, there's synergies, right? Because it's basically the same thing that happens, just that one is provoked and one you pick it up natural because you get some disease or the other. So caller, be assured that there is no fight in the body at all taking place between those antibodies that are being developed. I just wanted to crown this off. But Dr. Mayo answered the question perfectly.
Somebody on WhatsApp is asking, if you did surgery in January, how long before they can take the vaccine?
Should have taken it in March. No, I'm just joking. No, it all depends on the type of surgery, how, if it's a minor surgery or intermediate surgery or a major surgery, how much you have recuperated by now. But I reckon that person, if they had surgery way back in January, and I'm really, really hopeful by now they're up and about and fully recuperated. And if they have, then of course, to me, there is no contraindications in taking the vaccine. Obviously, if they're still very much down and not feeling well, etc., then maybe it's not a good time to take the vaccine.
And I would also suggest that you consult with your doctor, specifically the surgeon, to verify that everything is A-OK.
Yeah, depends on the type of surgery. Yeah.
Exactly. A WhatsApp question. I took my first shot at Grand Beach, and I have to take the other jab in June. Just want to know if the vaccination team will be back at Grand Beach anytime soon.
Talking about Radisson, right?
Radisson, yeah, sorry. Yes, Radisson Grand Beach, yes.
Maya, you want to take that one? Or you want me to go?
I would say currently, right, as it stands right now, the vaccination team is at the National Stadium, right? You can also get vaccinated at any one of the health centers, right? So the health center that is closest to you, you can call and make an appointment. Now, for persons who, let's say, for instance, are employed at Radisson, and we've done that with other companies in the past, if they have a significant number of persons that requires vaccination, right, we can come there and facilitate that process, right? So it does not disturb the normal work hours or working time, right? But for persons who are not employed there, I would encourage you to call your health center, or you can visit the National Stadium or SAMS to get vaccinated throughout the week.
One of the final comments that we have time for this morning, somebody on WhatsApp is inquiring, with all the doubts about the vaccine, what advice or instruction are you giving to pregnant women in relation to taking the vaccine?
You're a woman, so you better take this one.
No, as it relates to pregnancy, right? Now, when the clinical trials were being conducted, one of the requirements is that persons who enter those trials should not be pregnant or have any intention to become pregnant during the course of the trials. However, what they saw, some women, they got pregnant during the trials and they would have received the vaccine, both first and second dose. And just based on that evidence, right, from those persons, it was proven that the vaccine is safe and effective in pregnant women. Now, what we do know, let's contradict that with the actual virus that causes COVID-19. A pregnant woman, right, by virtue of being pregnant, is at increased risk of severe illness, hospitalization, and death if they become infected with the virus that causes COVID-19. Okay? Now, once the benefits, right, as we know, the benefits of vaccination outweigh the risk. The benefits outweigh the risk. Pregnant women should be offered the vaccines, and have a discussion with their doctor or their primary care physician as it relates to the vaccine before getting it. But they should be offered the vaccine. Yeah, because in the limited evidence, in the women who became pregnant in the studies, it showed that the vaccine was safe and effective in pregnant women.
I just wanted to add to that similar vaccines that have been developed and deployed over the years, there were no significant injuries to pregnant women, having used that particular vaccine. So that is in itself a comforting thing. But to say that they have tried the vaccine on hundreds of women per se, this did not happen. But similar vaccines that have been deployed over the years have not shown any significant repercussions on pregnant or lactating women. So, herein lies, as Dr. Mai was saying, that the benefits, of course, significantly outweigh what potential, drawbacks you have of offering the vaccine to that category of persons.
And just before we close, somebody on WhatsApp is asking, if we get the jab at St. Augustine Medical Station, is there a cost associated with it?
No, there is no cost.
Go ahead, Maya.
So there is no cost associated with the vaccine, to the individuals. But remember, there is nothing that is free. Even though the general public is not bearing that cost, right? Somebody else is bearing that cost. Right, but for the individual receiving their doses or their jabs at St. Augustine Hospital, there is no cost associated with the COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine administration.
Yeah, if anybody charge anybody for the vaccine right now, please call the Ministry of Health quickly. You may have to pay to get there. You may have to get to SAMS, but the jab itself is absolutely free. We can say that categorically.
Any final thoughts as we close off the program?
Let me start first. I am, happy to be here again. To add to the conversation, my apologies for getting on late. But I want to really encourage every single Grenadian out there to take the vaccine. I think it's not only our best shot, it's our best chance at this time to get back to a sense of normalcy, to protecting yourself and to protecting your loved ones around you, to get back into a stream of things. And I just want to address the whole issue of activities that are around the corner, on the horizon. That there is a body of thinking, and I'm aware of serious conversations that are happening regarding policy, for persons to be able to attend activities in the very near future. That speaks to, persons who are vaccinated that would be sort of like allowed to attend these activities. So if you want to be, able to go to cricket at the end of next month or whenever it's happening, if you want to be able to do, football and that kind of activities, shows that are coming up for Carnival, the different activities in different parts. If you want to be able to go to individual and private activities without an issue at all, my advice to you is to get vaccinated, because I strongly believe that there will be policies in that direction coming up pretty soon.
Yes, and just to feed off what Dr. Mitchell had just said, what the growing evidence is showing is that vaccinated persons are much less likely to spread the virus that causes COVID-19. And that is a fundamental principle in those serious talks and consideration for fully vaccinated persons to attend events in the very near future, because there is the risk is probably possibly eliminated, or if it exists, it's very low, right? For an outbreak of COVID-19 to exist in an event where you have only fully vaccinated persons attending, because they are less likely to transmit the virus. So I would just like to congratulate all the persons in the general public who have already received their first or both doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. And I would like to encourage those persons who haven't yet received the vaccine to go out there and get vaccinated. Now, there is significant benefits to vaccination. We know that vaccination does not only protect you, it protects the people around you. Now, vaccination is a very selfless act, right? And I want to encourage persons to go out there, right? It protects you from death, severe illness, hospitalization. It reduces transmission, right? So there is a amount of evidence that continues to the benefits of vaccination. And again, the benefits of vaccination far outweighs any risk in all adults eligible for vaccination. So again, I encourage you to go out there to get vaccinated, to join hands and join forces with us to going back to normalcy, or to get a sense of normalcy again in our population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. Dr. Mitchell, appreciate your appearance on the program this morning, and continue to stay safe. Have yourselves a good Wednesday.
Thank you very much, and have a great day yourself and your listeners as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Myanna Charles, medical doctor attached to the Ministry of Health, and Dr. George Mitchell, a member of the COVID-19 Response Committee. We thank both of them for being our guests this morning. A reminder that post-cabinet briefing takes place this morning from 11 a.m. and it will be facilitated by the Ministry of Health and Social Services. I am not exactly sure who the panelists will be, but we do know that it will be members of the Ministry of Health. That's the end of my time today and the end of the program. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Somebody on Facebook was inquiring that their aunt is housebound and wants to get vaccinated. Today, no one came to her after requesting it. I suggest you make a follow-up call to the Ministry of Health to inquire about when they will be making house visits and house calls to the shut-ins among us. So just do a follow-up phone call. Maybe they lost a piece of paper. I don't know what the problem may be, but just follow up if your aunt wants to get vaccinated. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow morning, God willing. Joseph is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz. Mr. Kado. Joseph is up next with Mid-Morning Buzz. Bye-bye, people.
It's your last straw.